Let me introduce you to the woman from the thumbnail. I'm going to show you a video clip of her in a moment. Now, I met this woman when I was filming interviews early on in the life of this channel, and we were out at some nightlife district. And as we were speaking to her, I'll never forget this guy. He comes up to her and he says, "Wow, you're so beautiful. You'll never need to buy a drink." And she's like, "Oh, thanks." You know, it barely even registered to her. Clearly, this is a woman who was used to receiving compliments. Now, one of the questions that I asked her was whether she would prefer to sleep with like a nice, safe, boring guy, or kind of cocky, macho guy. This was her response.
Like right now, because I'm 19, I think I would like a confident, sort of looking alpha male. But later on in life, I'll definitely like the more safe guy, the more, someone that would potentially like to marry, like later on in life though.
That right there is an honest answer. At the moment, she is 19, she's hot, she's having fun, she's in demand in the dating market, and she wants to play around with like a cocky, fun alpha guy. Later on though, she wants the safe guy, the nice guy, the sort of guy that she would marry. But she emphasizes again, that's later on when she's older, and by extension she's not as pretty and therefore not as in demand in the dating market. I thought about this woman and her response because recently someone from our Patreon community asked me, does the availability of casual sex make it more difficult for women to settle down and enter a commitment, a long-term relationship? And the answer is yes. Of course. Like this woman admitted, she's 19, she's young, she's hot, she wants to have fun, she's not ready to make a commitment. But there are other reasons too, and I'm going to explain them. But first off, I want to thank the Iris app for sponsoring this video. I love these guys. I love what they're doing. Frankly, it's about time something was done. Online dating and dating apps, they just suck. They're so terrible for men. It's a massive waste of time. And it just seems like it's one of those industries that has massive room for innovation. And Iris are the people doing that. First of all, when you use the Iris app, all new accounts need to be verified with a photo selfie taken inside the app, which means no more getting catfished by old ladies. Secondly, the Iris app uses AI to reward good behavior and punish negative behavior. So if a woman uses excessive photo filters, if she doesn't bother writing much in her biography, if she only posts a couple of photos, and most importantly, if she's really rude and she doesn't respond when people message her, the AI takes notice of that and it stops suggesting people like that. No more wasting your time with women who match with you but then never respond to messages. Speaking of saving time, when you first log on to the app, it's going to ask you to rate a whole bunch of stock photos so that the AI can learn what is your physical type, what are your preferences. And then the more you use the app, the more people you match with, it learns what you appreciate, and then it starts to suggest people that it knows is going to appeal to you. We all know that women are not respectful of men on dating apps. They waste their time, they use them for attention. But finally, with Iris, we actually have a dating app that holds women to account for their actions. If you're someone who still uses dating apps, it is worth your time to check this one out. That's Iris. There's a link to download it in the description box below. Okay, now back to the availability of casual sex and why it makes it more difficult for women to settle down. It's a good thing that the sponsor of this video is a dating app, because if you watch this channel, you should know that it is extraordinarily easy for women to attract male attention. If a woman wanted to go on a date every single night of the week with a different man, she could easily do that. But the thing is, having so many options can actually make it more difficult for women to actually settle on a single choice. She's thinking, sure, this guy who's sitting in front of me, who I've been dating for the last 3 months, is perfectly nice. There's nothing wrong with him, but can I really forsake all of the other options that I have and just be with him forever? There's that cute guy at work who's always flirting with me. Plus I got hit on by that guy at the coffee shop yesterday. And I never deleted my Tinder account, and so, the other week out of boredom or maybe curiosity, I was scrolling through and there's lots of hot guys there. Plus, I never really got over my ex. This is how it is for women. That is the reality of the dating market. If she wants casual sex, it's as easy as making a phone call. I guarantee she'll have a man in her bed that evening. Do you see, with all of those options available to her, why it's difficult for her to take the man in front of her seriously? Her mind is always wandering to other possibilities. Now, perhaps if she was having a man's experience and casual sex was not as easy as just ordering a pizza, she'd be a little bit more inclined towards commitment. But the reality is that men and women have a completely different experience in dating. It's like that woman from the video clip. She's 19, she's pretty, she's in demand in the dating market. Her experience of reality is an endless sea of possibilities, and with so many options, presented to her, it's difficult for her to actually be motivated to make that choice to settle down with just one man until she's older. I know that this goes against the stereotype that women are commitment crazy, that they all just want to get married and have babies, and men are the ruthless hound dogs who never want to settle down, blah, blah, blah. I tell you, that's so far removed from the reality. I can't tell you how many consultations or answers that I've given on the Hey Hero platform where guys have reached out to me saying, I don't know what happened. I was all set to marry this girl. I thought we were soulmates, but then suddenly we broke up, and within a couple of weeks, she's with another guy or she's seeing multiple men. Alexander, what the hell happened? She's got options, and it's difficult for any human being to completely forego options. You know, we're always going to think about, well, what else could be possible? What other paths could be taken? And it leaves men confused and devastated, and they come to me for help, which is a reminder. If you have a sad story or you need advice, you want to tell me what's going on in your life, just reach out to me on Hey Hero. I'll send you a personalized video in response. But I hope you can see from a practical perspective why settling down when you're a young, pretty woman isn't as desirable an option as perhaps it used to be. A lot of 21-year-old girls are thinking, why would I waste my best years just committing to one man? And even the girls who are in relationships, like they've got a steady boyfriend, they're gonna have that fear of missing out, especially if they have lots of female friends who are living it up and, you know, going out with lots of different boys, because these are those prime years for soaking up as much male attention as possible, of getting high on your own desirability, really enjoying your time at the top, your peak desirability in the dating market. It feels good to have the attention of one guy. It feels great to have the attention of 20 guys. And remember that women have a deeply coded instinct inside their biology that makes them respond sexually to men that they would never consider as a legitimate marrying prospect, but for short-term fun, oh yeah. Cocky, arrogant, macho jerk guys would obviously make terrible husbands, but does that mean that they have zero appeal? Absolutely not. On a sexual level, those guys are fun. They're confident, they're masculine, it's pleasurable, it's an adventure. But all of that stops when she settles down, when she makes that commitment to that nice, safe man. Then suddenly, she has cut herself off from a huge demographic of men that there's a part of her that she would still very much like to explore. She's thinking, yes, this safe, dependable guy is perfectly nice and he's going to make a fine life partner, but am I really ready to give up exciting flings with bad boys forever? I hope this is beginning to make sense. Why the availability of casual sex, it makes it harder for these younger women to settle down, which is why I think I'm seeing an increase in a number of questions I'm receiving on Hey Hero about guys who are getting frustrated because this young, pretty girl that they wanted to get into a relationship is just so hard to pin down. I know there was one guy who's like, should I just be dating women who are 30 plus, because at least they might have some modicum of loyalty. They might actually be capable of commitment. I mean, that's up to you, you know, that's for you and your own preferences, but it might be something worth considering because these young girls at the prime of their life, yeah, they're going to be hard to nail down. And all of this is without mentioning the number one reason why women might be scared to commit, which is distraction. I personally don't think that promiscuity is natural in women. I don't think that the science bears that out. Yes, it's true that women do have an instinct for cuckoldry, which is to get pregnant by Mr. Good Genes, but then get safe, dependable, boring guy to raise them. But that's more of a backup strategy. Ideally, women want the entire package in just one man, like someone who's going to have the good genes, but also be a good provider. It's only if she can't get those two things would she really resort to cuckoldry. And so because promiscuity is not the primary biological strategy, I argued that the increased sluttiness, I suppose you could say, of modern women, like their predilection for casual sex and hookups and flings and whatever, is going to be primarily cultural and psychological, not biological. What I mean is that there has been a change in social attitudes. Casual sex is not as looked down upon as it used to be. And so you see women with an indiscriminate, expression of their sexuality with a variety of male partners, that's on the increase. And with all of those social changes, it has made it more acceptable for women to use casual sex as a means of escaping their psychological issues. That's what I mean by distraction, because the truth is that psychologically healthy women are extremely rare. The number of women out there who genuinely have high self-esteem and no issues with their self-worth, that's extremely low. Most women have some kind of problems with their self-esteem. They have some kind of trauma that's unresolved. Very few people had ideal childhoods. There are not many women who can say that their parents were absolutely perfect. A lot of the times, young girls are attacked or blamed, or even worse, just completely ignored and abandoned. And what this means is that they enter womanhood, once they're adults, with this deficit. Psychologically, they still need validation. They still need love. Having low self-worth is not easy to deal with as a man or as a woman. Like, existence as a baseline is pretty hard, but when you have really low self-esteem because you weren't adequately nourished emotionally as a child, then your adult life, as a woman, is going to be filled with pain. It's going to be filled with suffering. Everything's going to be more difficult, and that angst, that pain is going to be so unpleasant. You'll be desperate to do almost anything that you can to distract yourself from it. Now, for young girls who grow up believing that they are rotten and worthy of being ignored and they're good for nothing, blossoming from little girls into young women is like a godsend. Now that I am sexually desirable, I'm no longer being ignored. I'm no longer invisible. Everybody compliments me. Everyone pays attention to me. Everybody wants to be around me. I'm really desirable. You can see how effective a distraction this is for young women and how readily available it is. And it's tempting. It's really, really tempting. She thinks, why would I confront all my issues of self-worth? Why would I look at all of that emotional pain when I can just distract myself and revel in all of this male attention? Of course, she doesn't understand the bargain that she's making, because sexual attention from teenage boys is never going to actually cure anything. It's just a temporary band-aid, because it's not an adequate substitute for the genuine love and support that she needed from her parents, from her father. But of course, she's not going to realize that, because a woman in pain is a lot more short-term in her thinking. She realizes that so long as she is chasing male attention and male validation and she's enjoying that, she's not thinking about her psychological pain, which seems pretty good to her, at least in that moment. Commit? I mean, what, are you kidding? Why would I do that? Do you want me to feel bad about myself? She senses that being in a relationship, a committed relationship with a man, is going to be painful, and she's not wrong. And that's the key. Because you see, in order for a relationship, a committed, intimate relationship, to truly work, to be healthy and functional, it requires an intense amount of self-awareness and a commitment to self-growth. The deeper that you commit to somebody in a romantic relationship, the more authentic you need to be. You need to really dig deep into your own vulnerability and courage. And while there is going to be joy and pleasure at the end of that journey, as you experience the ecstasy of connecting with another human being at a really deep core level, that's a long way away. That's the long-term goal. In the short term, all that vulnerability and authenticity, that's painful. Opening up is painful. Being vulnerable is painful. Breaking down your walls, your barriers, is painful. Confronting your own inner demons, it's painful. Of course it is. But if you want to make a long-term relationship work, there's no way around it. You've got to do it. Well, as a man, you've got to do it. If you're a young woman, I guess you don't have to do it, at least not yet. While you're young and pretty, you can distract yourself if you want to. There is an endless ocean of men who are happy to give you all the attention and validation that you need. So please, forget the stereotype that all women out there are desperate for commitment. That is not true. There are many women out there who are too afraid to do the hard work that a committed relationship would entail. They're far more interested in short-term pleasure, and the number of women like that are growing. But if you are a woman and you are watching this video and what I'm saying describes you, you're currently living it up, you're having lots of casual sex, you don't want to settle down, let me end this video by just offering you a word of caution. It is extremely fragile for you to be building a sense of self-worth and self-esteem based upon attention from men. It is a distraction at best, and it's not going to last. Men like women who are young. And so while you might be receiving lots of attention at the moment because you're young and pretty, that's not going to last. Looks fade, and for women, they fade pretty quickly. Please do not wait until age forces you to give up this strategy, until you can no longer achieve the level of distraction that you want. Please be proactive and get ahead of this. I promise you, the longer that you leave this and the more you invest into this failed strategy, the more painful it's going to be for you when you finally do face the music. Why are women so obsessed with shopping? That's an interesting question, and it's the topic of my latest Patreon video. I go through a whole bunch of different reasons, ranging from competing with other women, to appealing to men, to enhancing their sense of self, and of course, as a distraction. And it's always fascinating to me how such a simple question can often be a springboard into quite a deep discussion. If you want to see this video, go and check out my Patreon page. It's just a $5 a month subscription. You get instant access to a whole bunch of exclusive videos. It's a wonderful way to support the creator. We have an amazing community over there. I'd love to see you.